Carrie is gathering all the amounts of fiber that we need for our blend, which is 60% alpaca. And how many ounces did you say that was then?
19.2.
Right, because we're doing 2 pounds. 60% alpaca, 30% merino, 5% yak silk blend, and 5% pearl infused rose fiber.
That stuff is just yummy.
And the alpaca, as you can see, is a mix of several different shades. There's fawn, brown,
all the way from white to
black.
there's even gray in there.
Yep.
So all the way from white to black.
Very pretty. And the first place that this is going to go is onto the, it's been dehaired, so it's been through the machine that we just looked at a few minutes ago.
That's basically what it is. And if people don't have the dehair, they just drop it out the back of the carder.
And now it's going to go into the carder, which is this big belted machine. This is our white merino fiber that's going into our blend.
And then a whopping 1.6 ounces each of the yak silk. And makes such a big difference. And this is my big ball of yum. I love this. And this is, I mean, this is a relatively expensive blending fiber if you're doing a lot of it, just because it's the 50% blend of mulberry silk, which is your finest silk, and then the yak in there. So the yak is pretty.
But 5% will make a big difference in the way the fiber feels and the way the finished yarn feels, so you don't need a lot.
Yeah.
In fact, it could be overwhelming to put too much in.
Yeah.
So as much as you might want a whole
skein.
And people do have that.
Oh yeah.
But more isn't necessarily more with this kind of stuff. It's kind of nice to find out how little you can use and still have a big, kind of a big difference in the feel. And then this is the pearl infused rose fiber.
And we're gonna do a 5% blend on that.
I'm just gonna. Yeah, it's really soft, really sweet and shiny.
I know, I wish they could feel it. It's just getting the specialty blending fibers together. So what I'm going to do now is we'll go ahead and weigh out the feeds and make sure that you have 30% merino, 60% alpaca, and 5% of each of the blending fibers on each feed so that you get a consistent blend. So it'll take a minute to get all that ready, and then we'll show you how to do that. Okay.
So Carrie's creating 2.5 ounce feeds, which each one is going to go into one of these cylinders, like a little holding pen. And when it's time, she'll put that each feed will go on a belt in between the blue lines on the belt. And each feed is going to have a mix of fiber that's approximately the correct proportions for the final blend.
It's not always exact on this, but I try to get as close as possible. So 60% of your 2.5 ounce feed is 1.5.
Which is, I mean, that's at the heart of the artisanal process, is that, no, it's not exact, but that's why this yarn is has so much more character than a yarn that's made at a huge mill in tons and tons of quantity. Even really fancy yarns are made that way too, but that's not how we work here.
So
we use a calculator on the iPhone and a little
that is my brain. brain.
And a little kitchen scale and a couple Rubbermaid trash cans to.
It's really high tech.
Yeah, and I love this. I love the holding
The
pen.
PVC pipe. It's ingenious. I couldn't do it without it. Robbie, he'll figure out the
He's our David.
yeah, he is. He figures out the feeds as he goes along, but I'm one that has to be prepared and all done before I even start the machine because I lose focus sometimes.
Aren't you glad that we have a miller like that?
Yeah, got my fiber this morning. Okay. So let's go with 2.5 times 0.05. So on each feed, you're going to have 0.125 of an ounce.
Wow.
So this is kind of where.
Which is like a handful.
Yeah. But kind of.
That said, it's surprising how much fiber is in an ounce of some of this stuff. It's so
Yeah.
light that,
Yeah.
What did you say this was?
This is
Total, this
1.6 ounces.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty big pile of fiber.
So, and there again, our kitchen scale only goes up to one point, so it's not going to be exact.
Yeah, like tenths of a gram or whatever.
Yes. So I usually bump it up to 0.2. And then you guys are going to get to feed some of these too after I do what you guys are going to get to do, put it on a feed.
You're going to have to put down the cat, or it's going to go in the yarn.
Or it's going to run through that machine.
Emily has a new
Okay.
friend that she's made at the mill. Look, what is the kitty's name again?
That's Bones.
Bones.
Yes.
What's the other one named?
Tigger.
Oh, these are two little kittens. They are really cute. Tigger's about the color of this fiber, kind of a mix
She's
of
a
gray,
mix, isn't she?
like a tiger gray.
So now that I've got it figured out, you can go a little faster with making these feeds. And when you get really good at it, by the end of the day, I'm usually pulling out exactly what I need. See, I'm used to doing 2.5 ounce just in one handful instead of breaking it up, so. This little piece of black just doesn't want to go. Blend and put on the bottom. So if it's 60% merino, I'll put my merino on the bottom. But this happens to be 60% alpaca, so I'll put my alpaca on the bottom. And then this is very delicate. Yeah. So I'm going to put that in the center. So anytime I'm blending silk, I'll put the heaviest blend down, and then I'll put the silk down. And this, since it's already in sliver, it's really much easier to just pull apart. So just get real. You guys can try that. You'll see how easily it just pulls apart. Okay, so maybe I was just, it's something that I do all the time.
I just never imagined that this much work went into it right off the bat. You know?
And what we're gonna do,
It's like making candy or something.
yeah, there's a technique to it. What we want to do is make sure that we get a nice blend and even blend all the way across this feed, because you don't want it to be clumped up all in one area. If you clump it up all in one area, then you usually get an inconsistent spin there. So if you've got more of one fiber in a certain area in this feed, that's a nicer, more durable fiber that we can put on top.
It's a fluffernutter.
It is. So it's a giant sandwich. Now all of this fiber's been sitting. So we usually condition it. It's been sitting, so a little more dry than what I really like it to be before it goes through this aggressive machine. So we'll spray just a little, just a very small amount is all we need. But this is the conditioning oil that we use on the fiber. So it helps keep static down. We all know what it's
necessary,
like.
yeah.
Our hair goes like this. This does that too. So this is the in feed. And it's a very aggressive. So it pulls it and it actually blends it all the way through together in as it's going. And then you've got some lighter, less aggressive helpers. That's what the smaller rollers along the sides here are called, are helpers and workers. The Swift is on the inside. It wraps it around the Swift, and each one of these workers and helpers actually pull it off and comb it and then put it back on there.
Yeah.
And it does that all the way around and then comes out the back end. So you can see this one here is called the liquor, and it's probably the most aggressive. You can see the fabric on that. How aggressive the tines are there.
And a small hand crank carder has a couple of these.
Yes.
It has a liquor in and it has one drum usually. So many people have seen this in a smaller format
scale.
before. But and bigger and bigger mills have bigger and bigger of this very machine equipment. And then
we chose this because it's manageable for us, and plus we've focused on alpaca in small batches to accommodate the small breeders. So those bigger and bigger equipment, you can't put 3 pounds through.
But the main thing is that all these smaller rollers with finer fabric puts it on the big roller ultimately, and it makes a big bat that gets cut and comes off the other end, which is
and depending on what you're wanting to do, depends on where it's going to come out and how it's going to come out on this end. We'll be putting it into yarn today, so it's going to come out into roving. If we were going to put it into felt, it would collect as a batting onto this roller here. If we were going to do coarse spun or rug yarn, it would go out the side of the machine onto the rug yarn maker.
And there it is. So this is Emily and Erica now making feeds or spreading feeds. So they've got the alpaca down first because that's the heavier fiber, right?
Yeah, it's a 60%.
Right, the bigger part of the blend. And then little bits and pieces of the lightweight and very sparse amount of luxury fiber goes in the middle. Oh, Grandma's gonna love this, Emily. Mimi, look at that. You can kind of see that cloud there as it gets pulled into the roving. Let it move around. See if we can get a little bit better. There we go. Yeah, you can see like right in the center of the frame there, kind of a twisting rope of the roving coming through. That's really cool.
And that helps hold your fiber.
Now I came around back to see our fiber once again coming out. This is a more true representation of our blend without any of the previous fiber that was on the machine at all. And you can see it's a little bit lighter.
Okay. So this is where we're going to start drawing out, combining the rovings and drawing out, evening out the rovings is basically what this machine does.
I'm sorry, I'm getting in your way. Let me, I can be over here. So the roving gets drawn in between these pins and then into another, what do you call that? It's those rollers. Rollers.
Yeah. This is a porcupine roller.
Okay.
That's what its technical name is, because it's porcupine.
Yeah.
But when you have to replace this roller, that's what you call it. That's what the
Okay.
manufacturer calls it, is a porcupine roller. And And there's different rollers there that will have different fabrics on them. Will be either more or less aggressive.
Right.
And they're really made for different types of fibers. And what we're doing today with the wool, the alpaca, and those luxury fibers, we're going to run it through a pretty aggressive one and then one that's not as aggressive, just to thin it out.
And the object here is to draw the roving out and make it very, very even and airy so the spinner can pick it up and spin it.
Yes.
Okay.
At this machine here, the first time through the draw, it's going to draw it out about, we started with 50-yard cans, and it's going to draw it out about anywhere from 1.8 to two times its length. Yeah, it's tight squeeze here. And so you'll see how it's kind of marrying these two rovings together.
So it's coming up from 2 barrels of the same roving, coming up over the bar into the draw frame, over the rollers, and it goes through, what do you call that thing?
That's your false twist tube.
Okay.
So it's taking those two together just like we had on the back
Right.
of the garter and twisting it so that they won't pull apart.
Into a row.
Yep,
Right.
into a single row.
And if we were just making singles, is this where it would come from, or no, not really?
It would. Your singles will come from this roving.
Okay.
But we always run it through twice.
So it's just a finer roving that we're making here.
Yep, and what it is, in case in the carding process it didn't get, there might have been the clumps that you saw come through, this will
Yeah.
help to comb that out and even it out. If there was a little bit thinner because of the way it was run through on the feeds, if there was a thinner spot, you're hoping that theoretically there shouldn't be that thin spot in the second roving. So that second roving is filling in the thin spot on the first roving.
That makes sense.
Really don't want it in thin spot at all.
Yeah.
But that's what this machine helps to eliminate. That's empty. Once those 2 buckets are finished, then we have to attach new roving to start up again. So in order to do that, if you're a hand spinner, you're used to
familiar
doing
with
this.
it, right?
So you just want to try and keep that consistency of that joint area there consistent with the rest of the roving. And just kind of do a small felting to get that together. Just a real light.
Just a little rough felting,
just a
yeah.
little rough.
So that's the join,
Because
right?
if you don't,
there.
you'll end up with a big
A clump.
right here. So just laying those on there and kind of just pulling them out. My buzzer just went off. Let me grab that roll. This porcupine roller here is so much finer. It actually draws it out longer. So this one was a 1.85 to be exact. And this one will draw it out probably 3 times its length. So this will be its final draw. I didn't know you guys had this pretty pink fiber. You're pretty. That turned out really pretty. I wish the fiber would come in.
So we're just using the pink fiber as a leader at this
Yes.
point. It's just a leader cord,
Yes.
and don't get scared. We're
Right.
not.
We're not going to spin that. That's actually going to come off. So that's what it looks like.
So a lot more like a spit join you would use on yarn then. Yeah. More secure.
This is where if your joint is not correct, it will kind of bunch up.
So the process here is really the same as the last
We're
machine,
just repeating it.
just more. It's just going to be pulled out more finely, and so
Right.
it's airier at this
Yep.
point. Yeah.
So I'm a little bit heavy on it. So I know that's telling me I'm going to have to thin it out a little bit. So I'll put it back on. I'll clear this, and then we'll run another 50 yards, thin it down a little bit, and then try it again.
I'm gonna watch him set it up.
Just set it there. We'll put it on.
So right now I'm at a draw. I'm at a draw at 14, and I know I need it to be thinner to lighten up. So I'm going to draw it, run it down to 15, and it kind of jumps a little bit. I'll let the depth come back down a little bit, and then we'll run another one. Clear my yardage, that'll start me over at 0.
Okay.
Then I just want to check to make sure you can see the traveler following around, make sure that it's on there good. Sometimes it'll want to pull off of there and it'll throw the traveler and it makes a mess. So we check to see that that's good. I like that. I come back up here and check, running at 15, that's good. So then I'll click over to my yards and I just wait till it gets to 50 yards again and we'll check it again. Just to make sure where we want to be. Usually when I'm determining how much twist I want to put in it, I try to put the minimal amount of twist that I can, but I'm watching my funnel here, and I want that to stay about where it's at now. If it starts drawing it out further down, I know I need to add twist to it. And then also I'll check what we call the football, or it's just the fiber going around. You can kind of see the halo of it. And once it gets all the way down, I don't want that touching the sides of these plates. If it is,
Oh,
then
I see it. Yeah.
as it goes down, see how that's kind of touching right there? I probably could go with a little bit heavier traveler on it, and that'll help put a little bit more tension.
You don't want it to touch the bobbin.
I don't want it touching the
Plate. Okay.
plates on the
Yeah.
side when it's all the way down.
Yeah.
So I'll probably go up to the next heavier traveler.
That's interesting.
And the thing is, like you'll see, this is kind of pulling down a little bit now, but as it's filling on that bobbin, it's not even yet. So as it fills it up more evenly, it'll get more consistent there. And I know that just from experience. So I'm not so concerned about it now, but I'll continue to monitor it as it fills that up. So we're at 50 yards.
Now, is it a concern if the two forks are uneven?
Not necessarily when you're looking at this, because what that's telling me, that's where when we blended, we're going to have different things coming through.
Right.
You know, so as it becomes uneven a little bit on each side, that could be a spot where there's more alpaca or more merino. So you see that more often in the blends. Yards per pound, that's kind of how I gauge that. And like I said, it's still, even with that, it's not 100%, but it puts you really close.
Right. So on this sample, we got really close. Okay. And now we're going to set up. Well, we're not going to set up, but Robbie's going to set up all the 8 cans so it can be spun into our fingering yarn.
You don't hold any tension on it. You're basically just letting it walk itself in. And we'll run them in and then we'll check them all to make sure that they're traveling. Are you ready? See how we can see the orange along the edge of the ring? That shows me that the travelers are good. If they're not, you'll actually see it. They'll be kind of off the ring there, but everything looks good. So I like that. I want to pull it out a little bit, so I just bumped it up just a
the applying stage now. And Robbie's setting up the bobbins from the spinner up on the top there. Pulling the plies down and setting up bobbins to collect the 2-ply yarn that we're making. The very special 2-ply yarn that we're making. Just gonna- So each bobbin, so we've got 4 bobbins set up, 4 singles, and it's a 2-head plier, so we're going to end up with 2 bobbins of 2-ply. Alrighty, fire her up. Now, how much twist do you lose when you?
I figure the 2-ply at 60%.
Oh, okay.
And what I'll do is I'll run a little bit of this. I need to check it because actually it changed.
The hand spinners in our group will be interested in this. So each ply is responsible for carrying the load of approximately half the final yarn in terms of twist. But the singles has to be twisted a little more than twice what you need it to unwind. Cheyenne's gonna be like, what the heck were you thinking? That you're a movie maker? Checking it to see what our ply balance is. Look at that. Beautiful. Wow. Really nice. Oh, I love it. Italian from. So we're winding from the bobbin. The 2-ply is being wound onto a cone from the bobbin, so that it can then be skeined up or whatever. Some people use it right from the cones. And there's the bobbin down at the bottom.
Part of that I gotta take off that.
They're not really pretty, guys.
What do you think, Carrie?
Good job.
And of course, when it's
Look at that. I can't wait to see
the sheen on it is beautiful. And then when it's washed, it'll poof up and
Oh my goodness, yeah.
yeah.
Look at that.
What are you gonna make with it?
I don't know yet. I think for Kat and Kim, it has to be a shawl. They're like every month with the club. They're like a shawl.
Slicer.
Yeah, I want to get that slicer in there.
Are you ready?
Yep. So this is the splice, the yarn splicer, like the non-spit splice. Nice.
And then we trim if there's any long spots, we trim them.
Beautiful. So we got the cone there on the, now we're on the steamer machine, and Robbie has threaded the yarn from the cone through these couple of tubes here, and steam is going to be applied basically to block this yarn. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's going to go through this. This is the steamer, this part. And what's that chamber again? The long chamber? The heat?
Yeah.
Just heat? So it goes through the steamer, it absorbs a bunch of steam, and then it goes through this long tube it's shot through where heat is applied to dry it, right?
Just
And then Carrie is tying it off onto another coner. Is that what
It's
where
actually coming down to the bottom of the cone winder if you come down here. And back up to go
to
on
another cone? So it's going to go from one cone to the other, and in between the two cones, it's going to pass through the steamer and a heat dryer. All right. Listen to it go. That's the steam kicking up. So, here it is coming back onto the second cone. This travels all the way from goes around the whole room. Oh, now look after it's steamed, how puffy it is.
So we're 2,133 yards per pound.
The difference in the
Very nice.
wow. I know I said I was gonna share this with you, but
So it should be about 530 yards per 4-ounce skein.
okay, so now it's going on the steamer. And we're thinking about 525 to 530 per skein, so.
It's 4.4 ounces. That's why I said we always have to adjust a little bit for the, but that's pretty close.
But that might still be damp from the steamer,
Yeah, right.
so.
So we're gonna go with that.
And the
That's
humidity in
close.
here is 60%. By the time we get it back to our
Yeah.
dry house, it'll be 4 ounces.
Good job.
Coins, yay! Coins, I've been working with coins a lot. Almost obsolete.
Oh, it kind of looks like a big jar of coins.
That's exactly what I think it looks like. They're like a line of coins and some are copper and there's some different metals, right? Metal is like coins.
We could call it heavy metal.
Heavy metal.
That's a good one.
I like it. Perfect.
That's really cool. That's beautiful.
Come over, Carrie and Robbie. Come over for a final get in on this last shot here. Come on, Robbie. all four of you. The end. The beginning.